Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Oh, the quarterback conversation when it comes to the Denver Broncos. To be honest, it's going to be continuing for the next few weeks, couple months, to be honest. But who could they be bringing in? Jimmy Garoppolo has been rumored. Obviously, could they go towards a draft and look to drop somebody or to draft somebody? Drake Maye being rumored to possibly drop down. There's a ton to get into, and I feel like there's no better person to ask this, first of all, than somebody that was just at the Senior Bowl and the Shrine practice week. So let's bring in the one and only Cecil Lammey to have this conversation. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good day. Good day. It's a good day to talk quarterbacks because that's what we're going to be doing until the end of April.
Isn't that the truest statement ever? It's like, okay, are they going to go after a veteran QB? Because Jimmy Garoppolo's now entered the conversation yet again. He was in it a few years ago, and then it was like, oh, nope. Who are they going to be picking at? But now he really reemerges. What are your thoughts on Jimmy G's play? Let's get into that first.
Yeah, it's not good. The Broncos need two quarterbacks. That's the problem the Jarrett Stidham experiment led us to. It's like, yeah, you just don't need one. You need two. You need a bridge quarterback, and then you need a young quarterback to hand it off to. Jimmy Garoppolo is not much of a bridge. One, he's hurt all the time. Two, he's not really that good. And three, there's other players that are better out there. If you're going to go the veteran route, I wouldn't mind seeing a Jacoby Brissett. Jameis Winston springs to mind with his success he's had with Sean Payton. There's some buzz about that. So like the Jimmy G's probably my least favorite quarterback that the Broncos could add this entire offseason, whether it's rookie or free agent or both. Like Jimmy G's at the bottom of my list. I'd take Ryan Tannehill over him.
No, I'm with you. I'm like, okay, we could have done this experiment when he was quote unquote more in his prime a few years back before Russell Wilson came. He was being talked about. So like, let's not go back in the past and try and fix things. I feel like the Broncos have tried to do that. Let's just try and correct the system now. I still want them to go after people in the draft. But to be honest, Cecil, after what we saw out of the Shrine week practices in the Shrine game and then the Senior Bowl, I feel like the draft capital is kind of like dropped a little bit on how hot all of the QBs were feeling. And now people are like, well, wait a second. Are they not as good as we thought they once were?
It's the top three. I mean, we can talk about Drake Maye in a little bit, but it's the top three, and then it's everybody else. And that includes Bo Nix.
Yeah.
That includes Michael Penix, Spencer Rattler. It's fun, and God bless everyone that's ever done this, but it's fun when you hear, did Spencer Rattler work his way into the first round conversation? No, like he was MVP of the Senior Bowl, but so was Jake Haener and Kellen Mond and Davis Webb, by the way. Davis Webb was MVP of the Senior Bowl. The game doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm sure the Senior Bowl doesn't want me to say that, but in 18 years of going, I've never gone to the game. The game absolutely doesn't matter. But when you watch practice and then you kind of clue in on, okay, who are the other guys? Could Bo Nix be, a sleeper? Could he work his way into the top 10? And I understand that, big corporations are put out there to promote something like, hey, we got to talk up these quarterbacks. Not if they're not good. And Bo Nix looked like a late first round guy to me, not a guy that you take at 12. So we'll see what the Broncos do.
Okay, so let's talk about Drake Maye. Because rumor just coming out a few minutes ago, people are saying that he's going to drop now further down into the draft. I'm curious your thoughts on that. And are we thinking he's dropping into the 20s, or are we thinking that he's dropping closer to that 12 range where the Broncos could pick him up?
Well, the first thing I'd ask is who's reporting it and why is the reason he would drop?
Yep.
He's not dropping based on film study. So the season of lies is upon us. And I think it's upon us a little bit early, honestly, this year. Usually it happens after the combine. The combine is the last bastion where you can collect good information. And then things get nutty during pro days. But this May conversation, one, it was already out there when I was at the Shrine, and people were saying it could be Daniels at 2 instead of May.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. That's not necessarily a drop. That's more just like, who do you prefer, Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye? I'll tell you this, if he drops past 3, the Broncos should move up and get him. He is probably, outside of Caleb, Caleb is incredibly special in many, many ways. But if you're looking at the other guys, not named Caleb Williams, who's the best fit for Sean Payton? It's easily Drake Maye, in my opinion. So drop to 12.
But why? Right. Wouldn't that be actually amazing? But why? What makes Drake Maye more fit for Sean Payton's offense than you think Daniels?
Well, one, I love Daniels more.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to be very clear about that. Jane Daniels, Lamar Jackson, though.
Mhm.
With Drake Maye, he's more of a point guard than a guy that can just kind of take over the way that Daniels can as a runner. But Daniels isn't as advanced as Drake Maye is as a passer. Maye is that point guard. He can get out and scoot a little bit, but he's also a guy that's a distributor that makes full field reads and that can just attack you wherever you're weak. Okay, you're going to send a blitz here. I'm going to throw here. Like, he already knows these things, the high football concepts that he's played with already. So that makes Maye a perfect fit for Sean Payton, because we know that Payton wants a guy that can be a distributor and that will run his offense true to design and improv a little bit less.
Is he a young Drew Brees?
Oh, that's
It's
I
hard to compare,
yes,
but, like, I
yes.
feel like a lot of NFL fans need somebody, right? That they're like, "Okay, give me somebody that I can kinda relate it to." Because I feel like for Daniels, as soon as you said Lamar Jackson, I was like, "Oh, you're right. I see some of these qualities that really,
Right.
elevate his game." So, who would you say that is for May?
Yeah, for me, I need to nail down a better pro comparison, but it's not Drew Brees. Like,
Okay.
it's not.
Which is fine by me. We don't need to
Yeah,
repeat
yeah,
everything.
and Breeze is an upper echelon talent. I generally try to stay away from that. With Daniels, I say Lamar Jackson because of his rushing ability,
Yep.
and I think he's actually more advanced than Jackson as a passer, but he's got to prove it in the league. So as far as Drake Maye goes, pro comparison, just everyone don't say Drew Brees. Don't say Mitchell Trubisky either.
Mm.
Nobody helmet scout, please. Like, oh, it's North Carolina. Like, the people that have egg on their face from the Ohio State thing, which I always would counter with like, well, you didn't like CJ Stroud because he was a Buckeye. What's Joe Burrow? He
True.
was a Buckeye, right? So what does that mean? And everyone transfers today. So let me get a better idea for Drake Maye in terms of pro comparison, but it's not Mitchell Trubisky and it's not Drew Brees.
Okay. What's your gut telling you right now? Do you think that they are going to draft somebody, or do you think they're really gonna try and find a veteran who will play next season?
They're going to do both, and I
Oh,
think they're going to move up. I think they have to move up. And if May does fall, great. Honestly, just awesome. Great. There's so many teams in front of them.
yeah.
And in conversations that I've had with teams in front of them, a guy like Bo Nix didn't do anything to, blow the wind in anybody's hair. We'll say
Mhm.
that, right? When he was at the Senior Bowl, Penix is not a first-round pick. Neither is Spencer Rattler. So we can talk hype or we can talk reality. The reality of the situation is Bo Nix dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely dropped the ball with his performance at the Senior Bowl. And it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't next level. It wasn't showing that he could be like a Justin Herbert right away, or even a Dak Prescott who came into this league as a mid-round pick. So for me, it's the Bo Nix situation, which leads teams to go, okay, now you have to move up. If you
Mhm.
want one of the big three, there's 3 quarterbacks this year. Everyone else, you're going to get kind of lucky if those guys work out.
My worry is, what is the let's say you have to get into the top 3, Cecil. Like,
Mhm.
you have to. What are you giving up? Pat Surtain, all right, he's sending off. Are you giving off a first-round pick next year? Like, what are we having to give up for a top 3 quarterback to, the Bears, the Commanders, or the Patriots?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It'll take multiple first rounders,
Oh,
and it might
Cecil,
take
this
Pat
gives me
Surtain.
anxiety.
Well, here's the thing. The Rams didn't have a first round pick for about a decade, top of my head.
Sade.
Yeah. So it's like, okay. And they went to 2 Super Bowls during that time.
Fair.
So, and again, who's making the picks?
Mhm.
Right? So like, who's making the picks? And also, I'll throw in another caveat. If you get your quarterback, let's say you get Caleb Williams, let's say you get Drake Maye, right? And you're rolling. Let's go, Broncos. Now you're a playoff team. Now your pick's at 25. Now your pick's at 32.
Yeah.
I'll go there, right? Like now your pick's okay. Oh my God, we don't have the 28th pick, everybody. What are we going to do? You can get by that. You have to draft well. This is why Mike Evans, I love him, but he's so wrong and has been wrong for decades when he said the draft is a crapshoot. It is not a crapshoot. You have to build your team the proper way. And if you'd already done that, giving up these picks wouldn't hurt as much as it's going to hurt.
Fair. I'll play devil's advocate just a little bit for Mike Evans. I feel like he says it's a crapshoot because it's always such a coin flip, right? Of whoever you get. I agree. You have to build a team to have success from the draft. Like there's no other way anymore with the cap salaries and everything that comes with it. I know everybody talks about, oh, there's many ways to get around that, but you have to be able to build it from the ground up. I feel like to have success, it's very rare that you can just continuously pull pieces in to be able to have like a couple of Super Bowls in a time, like the Chiefs, obviously, right now. Like I feel like they've done so much of that through the draft.
You got to pay the piper eventually,
Yeah.
right? And that's the situation the Saints find themselves in because of what Sean Payton did to them. So Broncos country, get ready. You're going to give up a lot if they in fact do move up, as teams are expecting them to.
Yeah.
That's the buzz coming out of Texas, is like teams don't expect Sean Payton to sit on his hands. So
Amen.
the Broncos can report, like the Broncos aren't going to say anything. Let me put that out there and make sure that's everyone's aware of that. The Broncos aren't going to say anything, but the teams around them that know Sean Payton, they're going to say stuff. And what they're saying is Sean's not going to sit still.
Good. I want him to be aggressive. Sean Payton, go out there, be aggressive. You know exactly what you want from a team. Broncos country, whether you like it or not, Sean Payton's going to be the next head coach of the is the head coach of the Denver Broncos. So get on him with his plan and see what he's able to do. I will say, though, and I say this because I don't want to get my own hopes up, I think, right? Like footballs can be so emotional for all of us. I would be shocked if they moved into the number 1 spot. Like I could see him trying to go for number 2, number 3, but number 1 doesn't seem that far-fetched.
Yeah. I mean, the Bears are not going to give it up. Yeah, okay, we're fine. We can.
There's a price tag on everything.
There's a price tag for everybody, and that's what you're going to find out. And when does it happen? When should it happen? This is all a mystery. So until then, we have to consider all options, including the Spencer Rattler. Like we have to consider everything for this team, which includes the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. It's like
Michael Pratt, right?
Know yet. Michael Pratt, certainly. They've met with him twice already. So there are situations out there that bear monitoring. And if you got a QB next to your name, the Broncos are probably looking at you.
Is there anybody else that you've heard that they've met with twice? I know obviously Michael Pratt came out last week. Anybody else?
Nobody that said anything, but you meet with everybody once at least. So that's why on Wednesday, when they'd already met with Pratt twice, that was a little stunning because they meet with that. We talked to Luke McCaffrey. They've met Luke McCaffrey. Let's talk about that. Like, okay, yeah, but every team meets with everybody. How many multiple meetings do you have?
True. Cecil, there was some showings of like Mike Tomlin was out there. How many people from the Broncos did you happen to see either at the Shrine or the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, and they usually represented quite well. Didn't see George Payton, of course. And yes, that's a bad thing. People have asked me like, George Payton's not there. What do you think? That's not good. Yeah. Especially when the new guy's here. Right. And why do I always want to call him Rager? When the new guy's showing up to do your work, that I don't care. They wanted him to stay in Denver. And I understand that you can watch the film. I've gone back and watched the film of practices from the team access that I have, not with the Broncos, of course, but like you can do that. But I feel, in George Payton's own words, right? Hey, don't TV scout.
Yep.
Well, when you're watching practice on a computer, you're TV scouting. I don't care if it's all 22 or whatever, like being there, boots on the ground. It's incredibly important. It's why I've done it for 18 years in a row. And I'm just some slappy in the media. Okay. A team. If I worked for a team, you'd have to drag me away from the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Like I would fight and claw. I'd pay my own way. Right. I would fly Southwest like Gary Kubiak used to. Right. I would do that. You couldn't keep me away if I worked for a team. I'm just in the media. Like, George, you got to be there. I don't care who's making that decision.
Well, it's everything from the posture of players to their facial expressions. There's so much more than what you actually see being there than you just see on tape, right? I feel like you want somebody who's going to be super confident and feel really good and go out there, and you can only get that sense when you're actually in person. You can't get that over a screen.
No, and with quarterbacks specifically, since that's what we're going to focus on until the end of April, you got to know their personality. And you're not going to know their personality from a phone call, a Zoom call, whatever. You're going to know their personality from spending time with them and really trying as much as you can to get to know them. Also talking to teammates, also talking to coaches. Like, you have to dig in, because that side, that position, it's much more than physical. The physical gifts are easy to see. Bo Nix has incredible physical gifts. I'd like to spend more time with Bo Nix. He's an interesting person, an interesting quarterback. You do that by going there, by going to the Senior Bowl, by being everywhere you possibly can be.
Does this mean that we can have the conversation again about George Payton's job being possibly over after the draft?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and he'll be out of job for 30 seconds. The league
Really?
will
You
pick
think
him
so?
up. I pretty much know that. So let's just say there are
Wait,
plenty
who's
of
going to pick him
teams.
up? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Well, Minnesota would jump back on him.
Oh, okay.
You have to look. Spielman, I believe, does consulting. Did he land with anybody? So it's all about who are your friends with in this league. But it's also George Payton is a good scout.
Yeah.
So we can go be a good scout for someone. But, he will not be out of work for very long. This isn't one of those situations. I hate to bring it up because it's a friend of mine, but Matt Littlefield, when he built the Chiefs and then got ran out of town, never worked in the NFL again.
Yeah.
It won't be that case with George Payton.
Okay, good. Also, some other news coming out this morning is Jerry Rosberg returns to the NFL. He will be with the Ravens as a role focused on game management. I'm curious your thoughts, because I feel like this name was so popular for so long, not because we ever thought that he was going to be the future, but because when he was with the Broncos, it felt like there was like a breath of fresh air for a second.
Sometimes you just need, in movies, it's the all is lost moment, where usually your best friend or somebody tells you, you know what your problem is, and it's something that you needed to hear the entire time, and someone finally tells you, someone that you trust, someone that cares about you finally tells you that. It's like Jerry Bear's like that for everybody, right? Because he's going to come in, he's going to look at what you're doing and be like, that doesn't work.
Change this.
Exactly. And when he does those changes, things work. I mean, he came in and immediately gets rid of Montreal Washington and Dwayne Stukes immediately.
Yep.
It has Justin
Did
Outland
Dwayne
actually
Stukes
do
ever get
something.
another job in the league?
Oh, probably. I'm sure
Okay.
he's around somewhere. It's it's that type of league, but
Yeah.
still, it's like when Jerry Bear puts his hands on your team, it's because he cares.
Do you wish the Broncos would ever kept him?
I don't think he could have worked with Sean Payton.
Yeah, fair. I don't think a lot of people can work with Sean Payton, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think he's got a very particular way of doing things, and I think he likes those ways.
And that's why he brings everyone from New Orleans, because if you could put up with him down there in the Big Easy, you're going to put up with him in the Mile High City.
Saints 2.0, as I've been joking nonstop. Cecil, last one for you. I'm just curious, as we look ahead to the Super Bowl week, obviously Patrick Mahomes, there's always success there. You have the 49ers and everything that's happening over there. Who are you liking for this weekend's game? And is there anybody that you're going to be really watching, just free agency? You never know what can happen.
Right. I will say this. Sam Darnold could be an option. That's a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo. So watch out for that. Sam Darnold would make a hell of a lot more sense than Jimmy Garoppolo would. This game will come down to the backfields of both teams. We'll talk about quarterbacks and Brock Purdy and Pat Mahomes. That's fine. But it's going to come down to Isaiah Pacheco. He's got a shoulder and a toe. What is like a fan? He's got like 3 injuries because he's the angriest runner in the league, and he doesn't care about his own safety. So if he's healthy, by the way, they opened up the window for Jet McKinnon. So Jerick McKinnon may be available in the Super Bowl. He's back. And they have the 21-day window, but you only have a week. So you got to figure out if he can play.
Season's over here in a few days.
Right. It's the backfield. It's Christian McCaffrey on the other side. Right. And I'll just say personally, Chiefs fans already don't like me, so I don't have any issue saying this. I am sick and tired of the Chiefs. Like, I have Chiefs fatigue in a big way. I'll stay away from my comments on Travis Kelce. Like, I think Mahomes is fantastic. I think Mahomes is fantastic. And I say it with great envy because he's John Elway, the closest quarterback we've ever seen to John Elway. It's Pat Mahomes. And he's a joy to watch, but I'm sick and tired of the Chiefs. I'm sick and tired of their fans. I'm sick and tired of their logo. Like, I would love nothing more than Kyle Shanahan to finally win the Super Bowl. He could have done it if Jimmy Garoppolo had seen Emmanuel Sanders wide open against the Chiefs. A more high-powered Chiefs team, by the way. This Chiefs team is down, and they still made the Super Bowl.
Have you seen all the, similarities essentially between the last time the 49ers and Chiefs played in the Super Bowl and this year. I mean, it was the same presidential candidates. It was a leap year, like all of the same things. I'm like, wait a second, are we in deja vu? Like, what's happening here? Because it's just a little wild for me.
Well, don't get me crunchy, Rachel, because you'll be here a while. I did say this on air once. I was like, I feel like we've shifted. We've shifted into a different dimension because the Broncos aren't relevant. Like we woke up Super Bowl 50 and then now the Broncos aren't relevant. It stinks.
That's weird for you to say that because I get what you mean, but Russell Wilson will forever be relevant. And so I think that's the only reason why I still think the Broncos are. But I mean, obviously he's not going to be with this team very much longer. So it will be interesting to see how that shifts the conversation, right? Will we ever see them be talked about on Good Morning Football throughout the season? Maybe every once in a while, but definitely not on like a weekly basis. I don't think so. But it's fascinating that you say that.
Well, the one thing that can save you is really good ownership. And I believe in this Broncos ownership group.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll keep sticking to my guns and be like, hey, you build up that type of success in all, and I'm talking about the entire ownership. I'm not just talking about Walmart, but you build up the success that those people have had in all the different industries. It's not because they don't know how to do things. And they may not know football yet, but I know Greg Penner is a learner and he's learning from Sean Payton. So it's like, okay, when those guys get good at owning a football team, watch out. And that's why I said dynasty. And people make fun of me like, oh, you said dynasty. I wasn't talking about Russell Wilson. Now, it would have helped and the rest been worth a damn. But yeah, that type of ownership can build a dynasty. How do I know? I lived through the Pat Bowlen era. And Pat Bowlen cared a lot about this team. I think the Walton Penner Group cares a lot about this team and you fans out there.
Here's to hopefully future success sooner rather than later. Cecil Lammey, always a pleasure. It's going to be fascinating next couple of weeks to figure out who the QB for the Denver Broncos is going to be. Thank you so much.
Be good.
All right, Cecil Lammey, we absolutely love hanging out with him every single week. He's always a joy, and he has so much knowledge. Definitely follow him over there on Twitter. Check out all of his stuff at denversports.com. The QB conversation will continue to go. Let us know if you're watching us on YouTube. Drop a comment down below. Which quarterback would you love to see lead the Denver Broncos next season? Are you looking for a bridge QB? Do you want the draft QB to come in right away? Let us know in the comments. Love hanging out with you guys every single day. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. for another episode of Denver Sports Daily, going over all your headlines. And then tomorrow, 12 p.m. for another episode of Coffee Break, talking about plenty of good stuff coming up later this week. We will see you guys then. Get back to work, everybody. Bye.